All right, you bastards, ready for some deep shit AI. We got this research paper
Oh, yeah.
called When a Helpful Assistant is Not Really Helpful, Personas and System Prompts Do Not Improve Performances of Large Language Models.
Jeez.
I know, right? Title's a goddamn mouthful. But the findings are wild.
I bet.
Seriously.
Yeah, this really, fucks with what we think makes AI work, Especially with all these chatbot personas we see all over the place.
Right. Like every AI assistant wants to be your best friend or your therapist or some shit.
Uh-huh.
But this research
Yeah.
just shits all over that. You ready for this?
Hit me.
Turns out
Yeah.
giving an AI a personality doesn't actually make it any better
Oh, wow.
at answering factual questions.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Wild, right?
That is pretty wild. It's like all these companies blowing millions trying to make their AI sound like, I don't know, your fucking therapist. They're just pissing money away.
Right.
At least if they want accurate answers to factual questions. They took 4 popular families of large language models.
Okay.
FLANT5, Llama, Mistral, and Quen, and tested them on a massive data set of over 2,400 questions.
Holy shit. That's a lot of questions.
Yeah, it is.
So, what happened? Did any of the personas actually help?
No, not really. In fact, in some cases, adding a persona made the AI worse.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's crazy. You'd think that having a persona, especially one relevant to the question, would give it some advantage.
You would think. That's what the researchers thought, too. They looked at all sorts of things. Gender, role category, if the persona's expertise matched the question. But none of it explained why some personas did better than others.
So even when they gave the AI a doctor persona and asked medical questions, it didn't do better than leaving it as a generic AI.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The effect was tiny. They even tried using AI to pick the best persona for each question.
Oh, wow.
But even that didn't really move the needle. It was basically random.
So what's the deal? Are these AIs just fucking with us?
It seems like the persona thing might be more about marketing and making the AI relatable than improving it.
So we're all being played by chatbots
Yeah.
with fake personalities. It's kind of depressing.
Well, it's not necessarily about deception. It's more like we're still figuring out what actually matters for AI intelligence. This research just shows that slapping on a persona might not be the answer.
So, should we just give up on these AI assistants and go back to Google?
Not necessarily. This research is just one piece of the puzzle. It's more about knowing the limits of current AI and maybe moving away from superficial stuff like personality.
Okay, so we need to dig deeper
Yeah.
and figure out what's going on under the hood. I'm kind of curious to hear more about how they actually tested these different personas.
Yeah, they got creative with it. They look at different ways of presenting the persona, like telling the AI you are a doctor versus you were talking to a doctor. And that led to some interesting findings.
Wait, hold up. So it matters how you tell the AI about the persona. Like, are we talking to the AI or is the AI talking to someone else?
Exactly. And weirdly enough, telling the AI it was talking to someone with the persona worked better than telling it it was that persona.
That's wild. Why the hell would that matter?
Hard to say for sure, but it might have to do with how the AI sees its role in the conversation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's unpack this a bit more.
So you're asking why you are talking to a doctor worked better than you are a doctor? Well, think about it. When you talk to a doctor, you're not expected to become a fucking medical expert yourself, right? You just tell them what's wrong and listen to their advice.
Yeah, that makes sense. So maybe when the AI is told it's talking to an expert,
Yeah.
it focuses more on understanding the question and giving a helpful answer instead of trying to act like a know-it-all.
Right, exactly. It's like it shifts into this conversational mode, less about pretending and more about actually communicating.
So basically, it's better at listening than being a fake expert.
Kinda. It really shows how tiny changes in language can have a huge impact on how these models work.
Damn, language is weird. You'd think just telling it it's a doctor would give it all this knowledge and experience.
Yeah, like downloading a skill.
But that's not how it works at all.
Yeah. Nope. We're still a long way from AI that can actually think like us.
Yeah.
For now, we're stuck with these statistical models. They're good at mimicking language, but they don't actually think like we do.
So all this hype about sentient AI is bullshit.
Well, it's complicated. There's definitely progress. But we got to be realistic about what AI can do right now.
Okay, fair enough. But if these personas aren't the magic bullet we thought, where do we go from here? What's the next step in this AI evolution thing?
I think this research tells us to focus on the basics of intelligence, whether it's humans or machines. Things like reasoning, problem solving, knowledge, and being able to learn and adapt.
So instead of trying to make AI more human-like
Mm,
with fake personalities, we should be making it more, well, intelligent.
exactly. You don't teach someone to write by giving them a fancy pen, right? You
So,
teach them grammar, vocabulary, how to tell a story. The writer part comes from mastering the craft.
damn, that's a good analogy. So we need to give these AIs the tools and knowledge to actually think for themselves, not just repeat what they've been trained on.
Right. We need AI that can walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Okay, so how do we do that? What should researchers be working on?
Well, one important area is understanding how these language models work and how we can design prompts to get the responses we want.
So it's not just about what we ask, but how we ask it.
Exactly. It's like asking, what's the capital of France? Versus, if you were walking by the Seine, what landmark would you see?
Hmm.
Both questions want the same info, but how you ask can change the answer.
Okay, yeah, I see your point. So we need to get more creative with our prompts and think about how we can nudge these AIs in the right direction.
Right. And we need to watch out for biases that can sneak in, both in the data and how they're designed.
So there's an ethical side to this too.
Absolutely. As AI gets more powerful and we use it more, it's crucial to deal with these ethical questions head on.
All right, so we've got a lot to think about. But before we get too deep into the philosophy, let's bring this back to our listeners. What does all this research actually mean for people who use AI to get shit done?
That's a great question. I think the main takeaway is this. Don't get hung up on the persona. Focus on what you're trying to do. And if the AI tool is actually helping you do it.
So basically, we should treat these AI assistants like tools, not like buddies.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't expect your hammer to have a charming personality, right?
True. But a hammer with a sassy sense of humor would be kind of fun. Just saying.
Maybe, but it wouldn't make it a better hammer.
Okay, fair enough. But what about those times when the persona does seem to make a difference? Like if I'm using AI for creative writing or something, where the tone and style are important.
That's a good question. And I think it needs more research. It's possible personas could be more helpful for tasks that are less about facts and more about subjective experience.
So like if I'm writing a poem about heartbreak, it might actually help to have an AI that can channel some emo vibes.
Maybe it's worth exploring. But even then, I think it's important to remember the AI is still a tool, not a replacement for human creativity.
Right. It's like using a thesaurus to find a better word, not expecting it to write the whole damn novel for you.
Exactly. And as AI gets more sophisticated, we got to keep that in mind. We need to understand what these tools can and can't do and use them responsibly.
So what's the bottom line for our listeners? What's the one thing they should take away from this whole persona thing?
I think the main takeaway is don't be fooled by the hype. Just because an AI has a fancy name and personality doesn't mean it's actually intelligent or that it understands you. Be critical, be discerning, and use these tools with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Damn, that's some wise advice. All right, folks, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the myth of the magical AI persona, to the quest for real AI intelligence. Hopefully you learned a thing or two and maybe even had your minds blown a little bit.
Yeah, and if you're still wondering if your AI assistant is secretly judging you, well, that's for you to figure out.
That's all for today's deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and don't let those chatbots fool you.